What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so before I get into this video, a couple of other subscribers I want to thank for sending birthday wishes and donations. Shout out to the brother Muhammad for the $20 donation via the, I believe it's via the Cash App. He says, "Happy birthday." Salute to you, brother, for showing love to the channel. Also want to give a shout out to the brother Brad for the $20 donation via the Cash App. He says, "Happy birthday. Enjoy your videos." Glad you enjoy my videos, brother. You know what I'm saying? I talk about different things on here. Usually I talk sports, but every now and then I'll talk about some real life situations on here and just my opinion on the different things going on in our communities, in our society. All right. So shout out to the brother Lawrence for the donation to the channel via the Cash App. And he had a video request. And the video request is, what if Dennis Rodman was drafted by the Bulls in 1986 and played for the Bulls from 86 to 98 instead of playing with them for 3 years from 95 to 98? Because we know in real life, essentially Dennis Rodman was a replacement for Horace Grant. Now he wasn't able to replicate Horace Grant's offensive production, but he more than made up, matter of fact, even more so, Horace Grant's rebounding and defensive prowess, especially the first 2 years with the Chicago Bulls. And whatever he wasn't able to replace offensively, essentially Tony Kukoc canceled out himself, and oftentimes a little bit more than that. So what if Dennis Rodman was acquired earlier in 1986? Well, if he played those 12 years, right, for the franchise, then I have to assume that he would have been a very successful player during those 12 years. Because if you weren't, you were jettisoned the hell out of Chicago. I tend to think, since the Bulls in real life, they drafted Brad Sellers, who was 7 feet tall. I guess he was supposed to have been a small forward, power forward, hybrid type player. He didn't pan out. He was more or less a bust. I think he was gone from Chicago by 89, I think. So that still kind of fits for Dennis Rodman. Dennis was 6'7" or 6'6". Let's go 6'7" and 210 when he was drafted, right? For the Detroit Pistons. And essentially, at that time, the Detroit Pistons were making the transition from being a good team to a championship level team. And their identity changed from being more of a run and gun, kind of high octane offense team to a defensive team, you know? And it wasn't just Dennis Rodman. It was the arrival of John Sally and some other pieces, right? They made a trade for Adrian Dantley. So they upgraded. The Bulls weren't there yet. The Bulls were a team that was trying to figure out how to build the best team around Michael Jordan. Now, at that time, the Bulls still had not drafted Scottie Pippen. So they already had Horace Grant. I'm not Horace Grant, Jesus. Charles Oakley. Now, does the acquisition of Dennis Rodman in 86, do the Bulls try to make him more of an offensive player? Because in my opinion, Dennis Rodman would have never been a great offensive player. It just wasn't in his skill set. Also, part of it was he chose not to score. I mean, he could score a little bit more than what he did, but he would have never been a guy averaging 15 points a game. I think at best, he'll be the guy averaging 10, maybe 11 points a game, right? Um, but he never would have had the typical, prototypical small forward offensive game, right? So essentially, I think what would have happened is Rodman still would have came off the bench. I think initially, basically to spell Charles Oakley, right? That's what I think is going to happen. I think they may have experimented with him at small forward at times, maybe against certain teams. Um, Hell, they may even experimented at times having a small front court with Charles Oakley at center and Dennis Rodman at power forward. But I think essentially the first couple of years, it kind of replicates a little bit what happened with Detroit. I think Dennis comes off the bench. Um, but I think Dennis's rebounding genius, his defensive prowess, it still develops. It's in his DNA. Yes, he honed it working with Bill Laimbeer. Let's not forget Charles Oakley was tough as nails. Let's not forget that Charles Oakley came within a hair's breadth, I believe, in '88 of leading the NBA in rebounding. I think he lost their rebounding title to Michael Cage, I believe it was, right? So I think by maybe his third year, because I think Charles, let's just go with the scenario that Charles Oakley still gets traded. But let's say that instead of in '87, the Bulls drafting Horace Grant, let's say they draft um, another offensive player. Okay, I don't know, maybe some sharpshooting guard or something, or small forward, um, just in case Scottie Pippen doesn't last or he doesn't work out, or maybe Scottie Pippen doesn't get drafted at all. I don't know. I think it changes the trajectory of the history a little bit. But if we want to go with Scottie Pippen still being there, let's say Horace Grant never gets drafted. Let's just go with that. I think that Dennis would have been different. Um, he wouldn't have had that relationship with Chuck Daly that was so instrumental to his development. And I think in Chicago, I don't think he would have been as warm with Phil. But I do think that it would have worked because it worked in real life. He had so much respect for Michael Jordan. Um, and I think just Michael Jordan, just wanting to please Michael and being, um, so respectful of Michael as a professional, I think that would have brought out more in Dennis. And also, um, I think the Chicago Bulls championship window may have been delayed slightly because we know Dennis has some issues. He's not a great offensive player, but he was a great defensive player. And, I just don't know if Dennis was ready. I don't know. It's hard to say with this scenario, because Dennis was just so perfect for the fit that he had on a team that was already championship level. And like I say, he was just essentially replacing Horace Grant in the mid '90s. With this scenario, with Dennis and how volatile he is, it's just hard to say. I don't know if they would still been a dynasty. I think Dennis would have been successful, but championships always. How can I say this? Winning makes uh, things a lot easier to deal with. You know what I'm saying? If you have a guy like a Draymond Green, when you're winning championships with all the volatility and all the things he gets into, it makes it easy. When you're losing, dealing with that becomes harder. So if he's going to play there from 86 to 98, then I have to think in that scenario, the Chicago Bulls are still winning multiple championships, because I can't see all the things that Dennis got into with how Michael Jordan was. This ain't the bad boy Pistons. You know, they're not noted the Bulls for their physicality like that. If you got into a lot of that stuff, man, it's going to have to be canceled out with tremendous production and multiple titles, because if it's not, I don't see how he lasts as long as Chicago in this scenario. Because hell, you can even make an argument that some of his teammates were getting tired of Dennis by the third year. So imagine 12 years of that. And, you know, when you look at Dennis in the first couple of years with Detroit, he was easier to get along with. Dennis was kind of, I don't want to say a square, but kind of a square, because he was from Oklahoma, right? I mean, he wasn't born there, but you know what I'm saying? He played in Oklahoma, grew up on a farm. So maybe Chicago would have been better for him as far as his development. Maybe. I don't know. But let's just go with this. I think he would have been a slightly more aggressive offensive player. I think that Dennis would have flourished in the triangle offense like he did in real life. I think he comes off the bench the first couple of years. I think essentially he becomes a replacement for Charles Oakley after '88. And for some reason, I get the feeling the Bulls championship window is delayed slightly. I don't know. I just tend to think Dennis is going to have some Draymond Green type moments, to the point where it might even almost get him traded. That type of situation is what I'm trying to get at. But anyway, tell me what you guys think.
Real.